every week I get to work with really successful business owners. I mean, we have our boardroom group, our Project 500 group, our Ideal Business Accelerator group. We have private clients. I do collaborative work with a handful of owners, and I'm always kind of looking for patterns. I'm looking for commonalities. I think that the people that are looking for the shortcuts, the quick fixes, they're looking for that outlier, right? That one thing that sets somebody apart and allows them to be successful. But I'm looking for the things that all the best have in common, because if you can hardwire that into somebody, then they're almost certain to be successful. From what I observe, there are three things that are pretty much always present in successful business owners. Doesn't matter if they're extroverted or introverted. It doesn't matter if they're solopreneurs or multi-location owners or franchisors. It doesn't matter if they're online or offline. They're just some common traits that just seem to be present, or maybe common behaviors. And so I'm going to kind of dive into the three and unpack each a little bit to help you understand how you can apply this in your own business to make sure that you're firing on all cylinders and reaching your potential as well. So the first is every owner that I talk with that does well has some iteration of a monthly marketing system. Now, I say monthly. Some people may not think in terms of months. They may think in terms of quarters or something like that. But there's a longer term monthly marketing strategy. It's not just tactical. It's not just kind of thinking about what's tomorrow hold. It's looking into the future and crafting a multifaceted marketing plan that gives them the highest probability of filling their pipeline with quality leads, nurturing those leads, converting them, and getting people into their ecosystem. But also, most of the really good ones are good at multiplying the people that they have and maximizing the lifetime value of those relationships. So, you'll see a local gym owner. They'll know what their primary front end offer is going to be for the month. They're going to have their ads, their organic marketing set up to drive it. They're going to have their email campaigns at least mapped out, if not already written, that they're going to deploy. They're going to potentially use the internal marketing side of things to generate referrals or get exposure to that front end offer. They'll have their external marketing stuff in place, strategic alliances, public speaking, local neighborhood marketing. And then, they'll have some things like referral generation if it's not tied to the front end offer, or review creation to make sure that their Google business listing is always front and center with somebody searching. And they'll go try to reactivate or at least reconnect with former clients. They'll have all of those things in place, and they may kind of cycle through what the offer is. They'll cycle through kind of the graphics and the branding and the language to make sure everything feels fresh and up to date. But they're kind of running a proven playbook month after month. And sure, there'll be some seasonality. There'll be Black Friday promotions. There'll be New Year's promotions, all those things. But they'll know that in advance, and they'll be crafting out kind of a pre-launch and building anticipation and excitement. So every really successful business owner I know has a plan that looks like that is at least a month down the line. So they can be strategic, so they can make sure that they're not scrambling last minute, so they can have things in place that give them the highest probability of being successful. So having a monthly marketing system in place is number one. Having what I call your owner operating system in place is number two. And again, there are different variations of this. Everybody has their own kind of twist on it. But in our world, That means they do annual planning, they do 6-week cycles, they do our win the week program, and then they plan their day. So they're always playing offense with their time. They're always being proactive. Now, some people may do things in quarterly cycles and they may not think about planning their week in advance. We like that. We really like that because I think it's been proven to be the most effective way to take control of your time, but still be adaptable to whatever the circumstances that you're navigating hold. The owner operating system, kind of leg one, is that. The owner operating system, leg two, is the owners that I know are producers. They take personal responsibility for creating the outcomes they want. Now, when we think about production, a lot of times we think in terms of revenue, which obviously you've got to ring the cash register to have a healthy business. So, they are driving the revenue, whether or not they're the actual technician executing the ads or doing the sales or whatever else. Doesn't really matter. They're the ones making sure these things get done. They're either doing it or facilitating somebody else doing it. But production also is producing results for clients, producing better team members, producing relationships in the local community. So in some ways, it's just playing offense. It's being proactive. And so all the successful business owners that I know really kind of have that characteristic, that proactive characteristic, where they're always attempting to at least produce the outcomes that they want. And so they have a higher rate of production than almost everybody else. So we have people that control their time, they win their week, they own their day, they're producers. I think the people that I know that are really, really good owners are also like relentlessly consistent. They're not erratic. They don't send one email and then bail on it for a month and a half. They don't, they don't try an ad for a week and then throw in the towel. They just kind of keep their head down, do the work, keep optimizing, fine tuning, adapting to the circumstances at hand to make sure that whatever they're doing has, again, a high probability of success. But they know that the compound effect of those consistent actions is what the goal is, because that compound effect, it allows you to practice, to improve, it's the result of getting better at things day after day and creating awareness and building relationships with a market that you can't do in a one-shot effort. So they are really, really consistent, and they show up, and that dependability really pays dividends. And then finally, I think from an owner operating system perspective, I think they have kind of an upgraded mindset. They're not people that sit around and whine and complain about circumstances and blame whatever is happening in the world around them. They take a lot of personal responsibility, and doesn't mean that things always go right. In fact, I think the really successful owners I know have made as many mistakes as anybody, typically a lot of times more mistakes, but they're action-based mistakes instead of, having that kind of regret of inaction. They're proactive. They're trying things. They're doing things, knowing that some of it's not going to work, and that's just the price you pay to get to the stuff that does work. And that upgraded mentality, that kind of, hey, I'm taking personal responsibility for things. I'm not oblivious to the fact that the outside world, the circumstances that are outside of my control, it's not that stuff has no impact. It's just I don't have control. So I'm going to focus on the things I do. And so we've got the monthly marketing system. We've got the owner operating system. And then the third thing that I see with all successful owners is they don't go it alone. They don't act as if they're an island. They understand that success is a team sport. And that means they delegate and elevate their role. They leverage a team. They outsource. Even the solopreneurs, right? They've got an accountant. They may pay somebody else to run their ads. They may hire a VA. So they're not always stuck doing the low ROI task, and they can focus on their strengths, their zone of genius, and really maximize the time and the resources that they do have. I think all the successful people I know are learners and students, and whether they're in a mastermind group or they're avid readers or they attend conferences or they have a mentor, they don't kind of put themselves on an island and act like they can do it alone. They very much understand that great achievements come from collaboration, come from being a team sport, come from being a student. I know I sit here in a coaching role, whether it be as a business coach or a sport coach, and I ardently believe that all the best people, all the most successful people have coaches. But coaches don't necessarily have to be a one-to-one private instructor type of coach, right? I mean, some of the most important mentorship I've got is studying people that, passed away long before I was born, but I can learn from them. I can be mentored by them and don't necessarily want to go through all the trial and error myself. So if I look at the most successful owners that I know, they share those three things. Now, they will kind of navigate all three in their own way. Heck, I'm doing as a side to this podcast today, I have Graham Wilkerson as an interview for a podcast and Mark Fisher as an interview for a podcast. Friends that are really successful in their own way, and I'm sure they navigate each of those three things differently. But that's fine. Like, you can adapt the fundamentals to you, but they're still the fundamentals. They're things that are the foundation that all the successful owners build on. And so my recommendation to you is stand on the shoulders of giants, right? Do what works, model some of that, and then adapt it to you, your strengths, your skills, your personality. And all of a sudden you'll find yourself probably achieving more than you thought possible.